This is Kerrigan & Company. You know, folks, I've known the College Hype team for more than 20 years. They're a local screen print and embroidery company servicing the New England area and beyond. Now, what makes the team so special is that they have more than 35 years of experience and they do all the work in-house. I love their tagline, making a difference one t-shirt at a time. Speaking from experience, I know that is the truth. Learn more at collegehype.com. Hi, everybody. It's Kim. Coming up on today's episode, it's a dream come true for me. I'm headed to Pine Valley and all my children. This is Kerrigan & Company.
Kerrigan & Company is here for you. Yes, Kerrigan & Company is here for you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Kerrigan & Company. It is so good to have you here for this episode, and I'm really excited about it. Now, let me tell you a little bit about who's keeping me company today. This is someone that, I met in person last fall, but I met this gentleman years and years ago. He came to my home all the time, if you can believe it. I don't know if he remembers that, but he did, and I certainly remember it. Since that time, he has expanded from being an actor to being a writer, to being a producer, and to doing so many things. He's now a dad, and I could just go on and on. So instead of doing that, let me introduce you to the guy who's keeping me company today. This is Ricky Paull Goldin.
Good morning.
Hello,
good afternoon.
My friend.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
With podcasts, you just never know what part of the day
so
is
just
it,
say
right?
it all. Yeah. Exactly.
Great to see you.
Thank you, love. Yes, and I know what you mean by coming over your house all the time, because that's one of the things about daytime television and soap operas that, whether you are, cleaning the house or you're home with the flu or your leg is broken or whatever it might be, there's that guy or that gal on your show or your story.
Your story. I love that.
That's your story. Biggest audience members are like going through the toll booth, and they're like, hey, and you're like, oh, bye. So, what are people doing with their day? They're watching those shows.
Yeah, absolutely they are. Yeah, I got to tell you, I said to you off the air, but it's really the truth. I mean, I'm one of those people, because my mother watched soap operas, right? That's where you get it. You get it from your mom.
Yeah.
So mom watched soap operas.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So they watch soap operas, and I would bop in and out. And I will say, and I think you will admit this, I could catch it once every couple of weeks, and I could still stay on top of what was going on.
Yeah.
I still do that with mom to this day, because she's a bold and the beautiful girl.
Yeah.
But anyway,
all my friends.
Yeah. So, but you were on All My Children, and that's where I knew you. You were on Guiding Light. You've been on a number of different daytime soap operas, but it was All My Children, and I started to watch it when I was in high school, and stayed with it until the day that it ended. And I mean, when Pine Valley went away, I thought I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. Honest to God, I really didn't.
You never really think they're going to go away.
You don't.
I don't know what the show, we were up to 40 or 50 years of that. I should know exactly how many years it was on the air.
How many were you on?
I think about 8 or 9 years, and they're not seasons because you're doing 250 episodes a year.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You don't do all 250 episodes, but you don't, the cast overall. And, the funny thing about daytime, I don't mean to segue off, is that, but I have to just say this, movies do 2 pages a day, right? They shoot about 2 pages a day if you're doing a Tom Cruise movie or something. Television does 10, 11 pages a day, and soaps do 100 pages a day. So it's an insane amount of work, and I have to tell you, not that you asked, but I have to tell you,
please do.
When I first went to California and I was a guest spot on everybody else's show. I did guest spots, and I wanted my own show, and then I do a bunch of TV pilots, and they don't go, and so you do one, and you're not setting out for failure, but the show's not getting picked up, and the show's not getting picked up, and I remember coming back to my I had roommates, and stuff, and I'd watch, I think Days of Our Lives was on, and this Hope and Bo, and I'm like, how are they doing that much dialogue? That's insane. I mean, is that, and then I could never do that. And then I thought, maybe I want to do that, and I want to have one place as an actor to go and I want to have one dressing room. And because I remember my grandmother was watching that show.
Sure.
And so when I was little, I used to, so that fascinated me. And I think from where I came, my parents were broken up. I craved that sort of family and not being a nomad, which actors are.
Yep.
And I think it was a very conscious decision on my behalf.
Sure.
And it gives you I had a great run with that stuff.
Gosh, you did because you were years on Guiding Light. I know,
Yeah.
and
I was
you
longer
played,
on Guiding Light than All My Children.
Yeah. And you played Gus over on Guiding Light.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I had a
And-
blast doing that.
Yeah, and you were that very famous couple. On
Yes, Gus
Guiding
and
Light.
Harley. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gus and Harley. For many years voted.
So funny. I
the
just
favorite.
touched my glasses, which I'm not used to wearing, but I just remembered I did a scene with Gus and Harley on Guiding Light, and we were doing a kissing scene. And your eyesight when you're around, I don't know, 35, 40, something like that. I don't care what anybody says. Your eyes, go, kind of.
They do.
And I remember doing a kissing scene with her, and I opened my eyes, and I just pushed her away, like, you're too close. I can't, you're out of focus. And that day was the day I knew I needed glasses. So when you said that and I touched this, it was like a sense memory.
Well, I got to tell you, you were Jake Martin over on All My Children.
You're amazing that you know these names. Yeah,
Well, I
thank
know
you.
because, honestly, again, like I said, you guys were all like part of my family. I knew, every character and lived, and not just me, by the way. That wasn't just me. That was so many people. But I will tell you, I went on to start my career, and I had the opportunity to go to the All My Children set. I was going because I was doing a series on the Kennedy cousins. So all of the kids, as we drop down a few generations from the former president, what these kids were doing now, right? So
Yeah, interesting, yeah.
John was one of them at the time. And you guys had one of the Kennedy kids on All My Children, the actor.
I don't think that happened when I was there,
Okay.
but they had amazing people come on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, Carol Burnett came on with me, and it's crazy because I'm such a huge Carol Burnett fan, and she's a genius, but she was so about the show. She knew more about my character than I did, and that's not a joke. I would say, people are like, who did you play on All My Children? It always goes like this, and I'd say the name, and they go, "Oh, well, I don't watch daytime." I'm like, well, then why did we? Okay, so why did we start this conversation? But then I learned to just say I played Michael Knight's brother, Tad. I go, oh, Tad, I love Tad, Tad the cat.
Tad.
So I played the doctor, and yes, I got to say I'm not a doctor, but I played one on television. But we were so lucky with the guests that came on.
I know.
And was it Elizabeth Taylor that guest starred on not when I was there? It was either All My Children or General Hospital. Was it General Hospital?
From General
I mean,
Hospital.
there's some, big names. Love that.
Well, listen,
love that stuff.
They all watched and they all wanted to go and be a part of that.
Their guilty little pleasure,
But
I guess.
here's my thing that I want people to know, that if you are a big daytime person and you ever have the opportunity to go to a set, don't go. Because
so funny.
It ruined it for me. Ricky,
Yes.
I went, and of course, in my mind, I knew exactly what Pine Valley looked like.
Yes.
And I got there, and it was a long hallway and
Right.
what is sort of like a big warehouse, and it's set after set after set after
Right.
set.
Right.
And I just
Right,
thought,
you're in the mansion or whatever, you go up the stairs
Yeah,
to nowhere.
they're to nowhere.
Yeah, it's the same thing as meeting your favorite celebrities, right? It's better I think a lot of the times it's better if you leave it inside and you carry what you want to believe and feel about it. I would always try to do the tours as fun as humanly possible.
Sure.
I would bust in on people's dressing rooms and, with if I had some people in tow, I'm like, there's Susan Lucci. I'm sorry, Queen. And then, close the door or, whatever.
Sure.
And try to make it as fun. But you're right. It kind of kills
does.
the dream when you go like, that's it.
Why do you? I think you kind of said it, but why do you think people love it so much, and why do you think people?
It's just the familiarity of it. Yeah. There's not really any. And by the way, there's a new show coming, a new soap on. I don't know if you watched the Grammys that was on this month.
Coming up on CBS.
Coming up on CBS, and I was actually on that set because that's my old executive producer, and and I went to go visit everybody, and I've got some friends on the show, and it's unbelievable that in today's day we have a new soap coming back. I mean, by the way, everything is a soap opera. Every nighttime show is a soap opera, maybe bigger budgets, whatever it is, but everything is rooted in a soap. Darren Starr's show, all those shows.
Absolutely.
But that one is the new show on CBS called Beyond the Gates, and it makes me so happy that there's another soap coming back, because I think that you realize that once you hook that audience, they're not going to go anywhere. So to answer your question, it's hearing those same voices in your living room, knowing the story. Like you said, yes, it's kind of, I don't know if it's good or bad, but you can turn on the TV a month later and you really haven't missed anything. Yeah. Tell that to the actors that are trying to make it fresh every single day and make the material, as best as it can possibly be. But they're like a guilty pleasure. And it's so funny. So many people go, I watched that show. Not for me necessarily, but about any of those shows. But I get it.
Listen, I don't, because I've been loud and proud about it. I have no problem whatsoever. I think, as somebody who would leave, I'd watch, and then I'd leave and I'd go to work, and I did news. And it's so depressing all the time, and so
the
heavy.
Bad news, they should call it.
Right. I'd have to go do the bad news. So, for me, this was an hour of just getting out of news.
Oh, sure.
And going to for me, Pine Valley. Yeah. I would go to Pine Valley, and I'd have to see if Erica was getting married again.
I remember when we were in New York shooting All My Children, and I when I left I left Guiding Light. I went to ABC, which was a big deal to do, I guess, and I loved that All My Children was in New York City because I'm a New Yorker. And then we got a phone call. We got a call over the loudspeaker one day. We shot where The View shoots in New York, and they said, "Would everybody from the cast of All My Children please come to the audience of The View?" I'm like, "Oh my God, we're all fired. I mean, what's happening?" So we all go in, and then instead of Whoopi and Joy, there's a bunch of lawyers sitting at the table. No, there's no cameras rolling. And they said, "We're glad you're all here. We want you to know that the show, All My Children, is moving to California. Any questions?" So, like, what? So, somebody raises their hand and they're like, am I going? Am I? And they're like, "Yes, you're all invited. You're all, anybody who's a series regular, you're coming on the show." And then Susan, and I love her, she's like, and they're like, "Yes, Susan." And she says, "Will the show still take place in Pine Valley?" And one of the lawyers handed the microphone. He's like, "You want to take this one?" and because it was such a shock. I totally get it. And they said, "Yes, because Pine Valley is still a fictitious town, so don't worry, it'll be."
We can pretty much take it anywhere.
And like, no, that makes total sense. It was just such a crazy thing because those shows never moved. So I was dating Greta at the time. I'm like, "So you want to go with me to California?" She's a Boston girl.
She's a Boston girl.
Greta Monhan, and I just thought, well, our relationship's going to be over because I got to go because that's what actors do. And she's like, "Well, I'm going with you." I'm like, "Well, all right."
How long was it in California? That last?
We were 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I think about.
Yeah.
I don't think it made it to 3 years.
Right.
We were out in the pits of nowhere. The sets looked gorgeous. They were all shiny and new and identical. Sure. But you have more space. But I think there were some like porn hubs.
Oh boy!
Down the block, and we were out in Seedy Valley or Simi Valley, wherever we were. I don't even know. With like very tall barbed wire fences around. But we all had a great time, and I only like California when I'm there if I'm working. To be honest with you, because everybody's in the same business.
Well, absolutely, and you're an East Coast guy. Let me just ask you: would you go back to daytime?
That's a great question. I love to act. So I've said this to friends and family and loved ones before that, whether you're showing up on a Steven Spielberg movie or you're showing up on the set of a daytime soap opera, you're not a different person. You're still the same person that's trying to pull from the same amazing hopefully amazing bag of tricks and tools and things you've learned and whatever you can layer onto a character. And as long as the character and the writing is great, you never say never to that. I had an amazing run with daytime. I've also got other facets to my brain, and we're never one thing. None of us are any. If you want to survive in this world today, right? You're not just one thing. You are. You know, you've got brands. You've got things that you want to do. You've got scripts you want to write, or if you're a singer, whatever it is, you know.
Sure.
So we're multifaceted. I would never say no because I love the medium, and I've fallen more in love with it since I've taken a sabbatical.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I think what he said is, maybe he would consider that. And that would be okay.
you'd be a dingbat not to say, you consider everything in this world.
Well, of course, you're so right. So we've talked about your daytime experience, and we need to take a break here. But you've done a lot more than just daytime. That is for sure. Like you said, you're multifaceted. And one of the things that you've done is stage acting. And I love the fact that you were in Grease.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, one of the great musicals of all time, right?
Absolutely
it's so great.
is, yes.
And obviously, you are a dancer and a singer in addition to the fact that
I'm an actor that can act like he dances and sings.
That means you dance and sing. Yeah. And you've been kind enough to line up a guest who was on that same stage with you and played opposite you in Grease. We're going to leave it right there.
Yeah.
And
can't believe she's coming on. So
I know. I'm very excited as well.
She's a hard get.
She's a hard get, but we got her. Yeah. And so we're really excited about it. So we're going to chat with her, and we've got so many other things we're going to talk about because, like I said, you're multifaceted, and we are going to talk about some of those other things still.
Thank you.
Coming your way, everybody. So stay with us. Our sponsors are coming up next, and then we're going to meet you right back here on the other side. This is Kerrigan and Company. You know, folks, I've known the College Hype team for more than 20 years. They're a local screen print and embroidery company servicing the New England area and beyond. Now, what makes the team so special is that they have more than 35 years of experience and they do all the work in-house. I love their tagline, making a difference one t-shirt at a time. Speaking from experience, I know that is the truth. Learn more at collegehype.com. This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Lucia Lighting and Design, where people in the know go for the best possible lighting and design experience. Welcome back to Kerrigan and Company, everyone. It's so good to have you with us today. And keeping me company today is someone who's becoming my good friend. This is Ricky Paull Goldin.
I'm staying after the show. Gonna hang out, order in. That's right. You heard it.
I feel like we could get some kind of storyline going here.
Of course we
I'll
could.
call Greta. She'll
Greta's
understand.
cool like that. Yes, forward-thinking lady.
Absolutely, she is. Hey, so listen, we talked to you about, who are some of your favorite. We always like to talk to our co-host about who are some of your favorite people out there that you might want to interview or talk with.
Yes.
And you brought us this next lady, and I want you to tell me a little bit about your relationship with her.
Well, this is it'll be like, see if you can guess who this is. So this is somebody who is, her family is known, and she's known as Hollywood royalty. I wonder if she gets really fed up hearing that or not, but she is, doesn't matter what she thinks, because she is Hollywood royalty. Yeah. It's so funny. We were just talking yesterday on the phone. I said I just really felt like we were kindred spirits from way back. But we actually met on stage. We did a show together on Broadway, I believe. And she said a million quadrillion things in this business, fascinating things. I believe it was her Broadway debut at that stage of the game.
Wow!
But she's done so much in her life, and that was so she. She's amazing. She's an amazing human being. She comes from an incredible bloodline.
Yeah.
Her sister's cool as all get out. Her name rhymes. Her sister's name rhymes with her own self. And am I allowed to say who this is?
You can say it.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad that you said yes. Jolie Fisher. Jolie Fisher is in the house from California.
It's always nice to hear like your resume read out loud. It's
yeah, right. Things that we don't even remember we did.
Jolie, I always say I like to hear my resume when I'm alive because I'm afraid, that's the thing they all say when you're on the other side.
I'm having a bit of FOMO that I'm not in a 2-shot right now, though. I got to tell you, I'm jealous.
Don't be
that
jealous.
you're actually together.
No. And by the way, so many more things, my love. I mean, she writes and she directs and she's making movies. Even while we're right after this, she's getting on a phone with, I don't know, some amazing group in Bangladesh, where she's making movies all over the world. So it's like this is just a little crumb that
Listen, if I'm not doing like 8 things, I get swallowed up whole.
Yes,
I really feel that way. That at this point in my life, there are more years behind me than in front of me. Oh, that sounds so depressing, but it's true. And I feel like a lot of like the hits keep coming. We've all hopefully survived this crazy health crisis, this global health crisis, and then strikes in our industry, and now in an literal inferno here in the city of Los Angeles. And I feel like get up, polish it off, get out there and do.
Jolie, what I love about you, by the way, is one of the many things I love about you is how you protect actors. And I watched the Grammys the other night, and Chappell was on, who I'm in love with, and she just made it about the record labels protecting their artists. But we have somebody, and when I look at you and we talk, it always comes up. She's always protecting the tribe. She's always working tirelessly. She's quite politically charged, and I'm probably not allowed to say where you're going to end up.
But we can say where you are, and you are the Secretary Treasurer of SAG-AFTRA.
I am.
Yeah, yes, in your second term, right?
I'm number 2. Why try harder? I am. I'm an advocate, a fierce advocate for performers in our union of SAG-AFTRA, which includes journalists and stunt performers and background performers and dancers, and now intimacy coordinators is a new category that we've added. 172,000 people, and I work tirelessly in a non-paying, volunteer, soul-crushing, time suck of a job. That's not true. I love it. I love it with all my heart. But to make people safer on sets, to get us compensated properly for the use of our image, to put guardrails around AI. I mean, it's endless. Protect our pensions when we retire, and of course, healthcare, which has been like a major sort of banner for me in the real world too, not just for actors. Sure. I feel like we don't take care of our own. We don't when we come into this human body of ours, they don't tell you you're going to have to take care of your parents. Right. They don't tell you that, it's fascinating and frustrating, and I feel like I'm making headway.
Well, Jolie, you were a very big part of the negotiations when the writers were out. And, one of the things that I thought was so fascinating about that time, and I think you've just sort of struck on some of that because you've lined out some of the people who are represented. But, I think people out here in, layman's world thought that was just about big actors and big salaries and big writers on big shows. And that's really not the case. And when you guys were fighting, you really were fighting for people who are just trying to make a living.
I even call myself a journeyman actor. I have enjoyed an amazing career. I'm sort of reinventing myself as this writer director, but I've been on TV shows. I've done big, giant Disney movies and things like that. But there are a lot of people that make their career. There are 2% of actors in our union make over $200,000. So you think about all these people that are making millions and millions. There's 2% of us. So out of this 170,000 people, people enjoy it at, sometimes as a hobby. Sometimes they just do make their career at being in the background, which we don't have a full tableau, a full picture. If you don't see people chit-chatting in a conversation in a restaurant, a full restaurant full of people, those are actors.
Sure.
And they do this as a career, and they make enough money mostly to get health care and to get a pension when they retire. So it's so many people. I was talking about this, I think yesterday, having to do with the fires, is that there was the community of the Palisades, which Ricky, you lived in, right?
Our house is gone from where we raised Kai for the first 2 years of his life. Yeah.
And my home,
Breaks my
where
heart.
I grew up mostly in Malibu, burned. And it's like, it's your story. It's your story that's gone.
Absolutely.
My story is gone. And then there's the entire community of Altadena, which I sort of did a deep dive into. I worked there I did a little tiny little movie in this house in Altadena. It's the only reason why I know where it is. And it was a community built by one freed slave.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Wow.
Like, hear that.
Yeah.
So it was a melting pot of people of color, all sorts of color. And then there were, some pretty big houses and things like that. But there were multi-generational homes, people that lived there, their grandmother, then the mother, and then the kids, and and the entire place is wiped out. It's not just movie stars and rich people that lost things.
Right.
It is quite literally the most traumatic thing that we've seen since
Ever. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I know that SAG-AFTRA is working mental health issues, working with people, trying to put the pieces back together. But this is a long road, and I know you're going to be instrumental in that road. We talked about before you came on that you come from a family of royalty in Hollywood. And I know this is something everybody asks you about, but I have to ask you about it as well. Your last name is Fisher.
Yes.
So walk everybody.
I come from good stock.
You do. You do.
My mom, we would say we were matzo pizza. My father, Eddie Fisher, was, just uber talented gambler, womanizer, drug addict, but he was so much more.
But charming.
He married the most amazing women on the planet: Debbie Reynolds, Elizabeth Taylor, Connie Stevens. Connie is my mom. I enjoyed most of my life with a half brother and half sister, Todd and Carrie. We moved to Malibu. And we were looking for houses in Malibu, and we walked out, when Malibu was still kind of like salty and sandy and just like little shacks. Nobody had like tennis courts on the beach like now they do. So we walked out onto the deck of this little Malibu house, and my mom goes, "Who's the asshole who has a swimming pool on the beach?" And the lady goes, "Debbie Reynolds." So the house. And grew up two wives of Eddie next door to each other. I mean, is that the most craziest thing you've ever heard?
I honestly think this is why we really relate. We relate on so many levels.
Yeah.
And by the way, Eddie Fisher, incredibly well known and a movie star, an amazing voice. And I by the way, Jolie has an amazing voice.
I was going to say,
I was just at her show in New York at
of her...
Lincoln Center a couple months back. She blew the doors off. You don't even know.
Wow.
And I wish it was televised, Jolie. In any event, my dad was a very famous hypnotist in Europe, right? One of the world's best hypnotists, but he was also a womanizer, had 6 wives at the end of the day. I just found out another sibling like a couple of weeks ago. So, and he's gone, so he doesn't have to answer for anything. But everybody, when they talk about him, they're like, was he the greatest dad? No, a terrible dad. But it's funny, we're still talking about them, and they left this thing. Of course, Eddie Fisher he's the Rat Pack, right? Essentially,
yeah,
he was part of that.
He had more number one hit, the most number one hits until a guy named Elvis Presley came along, or the Beatles, or something like that. Yeah. So he's like a different generation. Yeah. Like people don't really know. Our kids don't know from Eddie Fisher.
Right. They don't know who Michael Jackson is. Don't worry about
it. We had a spectacular relationship in adulthood. He was not around when I was a kid, so I was raised by Connie Stevens, who is radiant, incandescent, little sex kitten badass, and she was, we dragged us around, the world on tour. She was performing all over the world. And who am I kidding? My bags were packed and I was ready right by the door. And I loved it so much.
You weren't dragged.
It was in your DNA. And it doesn't have to be, by the way. I've got 2 kids. One is ready right now to be on Broadway, and the other one just wants to play basketball. So, it has nothing to do with showbiz. No. We were talking about
absolutely.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where all my little kittens are going to end up. But I do have 5 kids. And I'm raising two, or they're adults now, but I married my husband 28 years ago and got two in the deal. And then I had two daughters with him, and then I adopted my fifth child. And so they come in different packages and different baskets, and they come and I hope that I've instilled in them. They're all out of the house right now. Nobody's here.
Yeah.
So as an empty nester, I've kind of given their little shove into the world. I don't know if anybody will end up on stage.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody sing like you do?
My stepson is in the band Midland, which is a big country rock band, and he's a rock star. And his brother, so they live in Texas, and they are on the road, all year long, and they both are married and have children. I'm Glamma.
Of course you are.
Skylar and True, my biological daughters, both sing, but they don't sing in public.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They have an exhibitionist as a mother, so I think they kind of they'll be behind the scenes.
That's enough.
And my youngest, who doesn't look at all like me, is very much like me.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
Now, you two met your first, Ricky, you were saying it, your first foray into Broadway, meaning for you, it wasn't your first foray.
It was technically your Broadway debut, no?
Broadway debut, exactly.
And you were Rizzo.
Rizzo.
Yes, badass Rizzo.
Can you give us a line or two? Do you still carry that with you?
She's just her badass.
That's a big.
Then go with a boy or two, even though the neighborhood thinks I'm trashy and no good. I suppose it could be true, but there are worse things I could do.
Yay, bravo. That's fantastic. That had to have been, again, I said to you guys, that's a fabulous show. And what a cool one to be in on Broadway. That had to have been a blast.
We were like old people jumping around pretending we were teenagers. It was hilarious.
Well, it's the same way as Happy Days was, right? Richie Cunningham was like 40 and the Fonz was like 52 with the jukebox.
I said yesterday to David that I think I'm really overdue for a good Broadway show, because the only other one that I've done is Cabaret, which was a dream role for me. Sally Bowles.
Killed it.
I just played her for a year. I did 300 performances, and I just embodied the all the things that she represents, good, bad, and ugly. And then I was like, I'm due for something, but they have chosen the two shows that I really wanted to do have chosen diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So
I don't get to
will
play
you say what
Mama Rose?
Okay.
I won't get to play Mama Rose this time around or do Sunset Boulevard, but maybe there's another, one in my future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You bet.
We should bring back Rent.
There you go. Well,
we're too old for Rent.
Last week we had
I think so.
Last week we had Melissa Manchester on, and she's in Funny Girl.
Funny Girl. Yeah.
Opens here in Boston tonight, as a matter of fact.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And she's in Funny Girl. She plays Rose. She plays the mama in Funny Girl. So you never know, right?
We got to get you back to New York and get you up on Broadway.
There you go. Hope so.
That would be amazing.
So we have to ask you, a lot of people who are listening right now know Jolie from, of course, her days on Ellen. And the infamous show, which I have to ask you, Jolie, at the time, did you have any idea the impact that show would have on the world?
The short answer is yes.
Did you?
I did. I felt it as we were doing it. I felt, I recently found this crazy box of little tapes, because I used to carry a video camera around everywhere. Before we had smartphones, I had this little mini thing.
Yeah, mini cam.
I found all the tapes, and I have some crazy stuff. And one thing that I was just looking at was a march on Washington that was 1 million people, and I was holding the banner with Ellen and Anne Heche, Melissa Etheridge and her wife at the time, Julie Cypher, and Matthew Shepard's parents. Wow. Holding the banner, marching on Washington with 1 million people, where we ended, and they did a concert, and I was up on stage and singing. I was along for this incredible, incredible ride. I like to say it was so good of Ellen to be the star of my show.
That's so funny. Yeah. You know, when she was dating Anne Heche, right? You said Anne Heche.
Yeah, she was dating
her. And
her.
I came to see that show, and I saw you, and we didn't even know each other yet. What year? Do you remember what year that was, roughly? Because Anne Heche was on Another World with me when I was
No, well, the March was after the coming out because I had just done Cabaret, so that was 2000.
Yeah.
So so of course we did know each other then. But the day I went to Ellen, you were not there. That's all it was. But that was a pretty freaking funny show.
Oh.
No, it paved the way.
She's
it
amazing.
Paved the way for so many things. You know, who knows what's the world is literally on fire and also like
figuratively
on fire, and we don't know what's going to happen in art and in the things that we're making. I feel like out of the plague, the literal plague, came the greatest works of, you know, Shakespeare and people like that. And, you know, just Billy Shakespeare. But I think that because we have survived the global health crisis that we did, the pandemic, and you know, a once in a generation strike with the industry, and then these big fires, that I can't imagine that there isn't going to be an absolute renaissance with art. You know, beautiful love songs, beautiful pain. Out of the pain comes this beauty of I've been leading grief councils. So somebody said, well, what right do you have to do that? I'm like, I have every right. I have every right to try to help people grieve a loss, whether it be your home, a lover, you know, a breakup, a parent, the loss of a child, anything.
A career.
You know, we need to take care of each other.
Yeah.
And I did discover this thing about myself. I have a really abnormal attachment to things. So in the packing up and leaving my house for evacuation, when you think that everything is going to burn, because it was literally over there, over there, over there. We were surrounded by fire. And I had the time. We were on ready, set. We weren't on go yet. Yeah. And I walked around and I was like, well, I need this. I need this. And I need this. You know, it's a very interesting thing when you have the time to look around at what you have and what it means to you. And I had David Kessler, who's an amazing grief counselor who transitions people. And just he said to me, it's an evidence of love that when you can point at things and say who gave it to you, when, what was happening in your world when you received something. And then there's things that you realize don't spark any joy, like Marie Kondo says, that you realize that you don't really need. And that's what I've been doing since the fires, is I have been packing up and getting rid of. And it's freeing. And it's, and I want people to have it. Like I was like, I know people that lost everything and have 3 daughters. And I'm like, I have stuff.
Right.
Let me get my stuff.
Yeah,
that's why I love you, honey. That's why I love you.
Well, you're doing great work and continue to do great work in the industry because I think you're right. Out of these ashes will come some really incredible things. And I think it's going to be really terrific. Hey, we got to get you back on this coast. Come back and let's get you in a show. That would be so fun.
Anytime. I'm an Emersonian too, so I feel like I have a little.
Yeah, you went to Emerson, right?
You went to Emerson.
Yep.
When's the last time you were in Boston?
Not that long ago. A couple of years, maybe.
Okay. All right. Well,
I need a revisit.
All right. You better come. We've got some great restaurants, great places to go, and some good theater. So how about you do it?
I will do it.
All right.
And we'll get a 2-shot.
Jolie, thank you, my love. Thank you so much. I know you're crazed and busy.
Have a beautiful day.
Yes.
Thanks, Jolie. You too. Best of luck. I hope your meeting afterward goes very well from wherever it is that you feel she's talking.
Bangalore, India.
Jolie Fisher.
Right, I'm kidding.
Jolie Fisher, thank you so much.
Bye,
All right.
love.
Thank you.
Stay with us, everybody. This is Kerrigan and Company. I have great news to share. Lucia Lighting and Design has extended its annual Red Tag sale through the end of February. Head to Lucia Lighting and Design at 311 Western Avenue in Lynn before the end of February for the best deals of the year. Lucia has hundreds of items with red sale tags on them, and that means 50% off. These are beautiful, one-of-a-kind display pieces at incredible prices. Don't wait. Get to Lucia Lighting and Design before the end of February for their extended Red Tag sale. Learn more about my favorite lighting and design store at lucialighting.com.
If you like rum, you're going to love Rumson's Rum, New England's most award-winning rum brand. Rumson creates distinctive and savory flavor profiles by hand-selecting and marrying the finest barrel-aged Caribbean rums. The spirits are then blended and finished in the New England Rum House. Choose from Rumson's Gold, Spiced, Grand Reserve, or Coffee Rum, which is smooth and sweet with a warm roasted coffee flavor, a hint of vanilla, and a decadent buttery finish. Find Rumson's at liquor stores or ask for it at your favorite restaurant. Learn more at rumsons.com. That's rumsons.com. Rumsons. Life lived, life enjoyed.
Welcome back, everybody, to Kerrigan and Company. So glad you could be with us for this episode. So glad that Jolie could be with us, too. That was fun. Thank you for getting her.
She's amazing. She's got so much more to say, so we need a whole other hour with her someday in the future.
We absolutely do have to do that. Now, so, we mentioned this off of the top, that Ricky has all kinds of projects that he does. Yes, he's been intimately involved in daytime TV, and he's got a whole lot of other acting, irons in the fire. But he also is someone who buys homes, redesigns them, and flips them.
Yeah. Do you think that when people are on these types of shows and talk shows or any show and they take their sip of something as if they're so thirsty that they had to wait till they're on the show? Or is it just nerves? Could it be like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
On Fallon, Kerrigan, whatever.
Can I tell you why I just do it? Because I just want to make sure that the logo gets into the camera.
Yes, exactly. I love the way you designed these mugs. Yes, I did. Yes, I do. So when I was little, my mom, out of necessity, when my parents broke up, she worked for a very wealthy guy on Long Island. We moved from London to the 5 towns on Long Island. Couldn't be more different of a setting. And she worked for this guy, so her job was she had a great design sense. Nice to meet you, Eric.
Well, but we're going to introduce you in just one second here.
So in case my arm just disappeared, to say hello. So my mom her job was and he had a 27-bedroom home, and he never lived in it. So my mom's job was to design this thing, and I was 13 years old. And my mom would ask me, what do you think about this, Ricky, or that? And I would give her my idea, and she would do it.
Cool.
Sometimes. Right. And if she did it, I was like, wow, an adult listened to me. And I used to love the way like a ceiling was coffered, or the way that, a floor was done, or, you can make hardwood floors in many different ways. And
inlays and
and all of that.
Right.
She would listen to me. And I always fell in love with that and design and magazines and all that stuff. It's like, real estate porn. Called food porn, real estate porn. And I always loved it. And I always tried to dream big about homes and gardens and swimming pools and all that.
Great.
And so I fell in love with it, and I got, Greta pushed me. She said, you do our house. So we have a little humble cottage. That came out pretty darn good. And then she's like, this is something you need to do. So we're like over a dozen homes in Long Island, in the Hamptons, and some gigs in Miami, in Palm Beach. So it's been fun.
You have a great appreciation for our next guest, then. There's no two ways about that. Eric Roseff is a designer here in Boston, an interior designer who has done much outside of Boston as well. And he has Eric Roseff Designs, and it is great to see you.
It's great to see you.
Let's just start with his style. We love his jacket.
I want that jacket. And I'm going to
change right now.
Yeah, you can do it. I'll give you this one.
Listen, no stripping.
That's a great jacket too.
By the way, going through the airport, and this is not a lie, this morning, I always get stopped, and the TSA agent's frisking me and feeling my arms, and what's this? And then he goes, what fabric is this? I go, it's suede, man. I'll send you one for Christmas.
Just let me
got all
throw.
felt up at the airport.
Eric, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Great to see you, too.
So I was thinking about this, and what I always try to do is the person who is keeping me company, my co-host, we like to look for guests that can relate to the co-host. And knowing, obviously, that Ricky has this side hustle,
Yes.
which is
My
pretty
side
cool.
hustle. That's right.
We thought, wow, let's see if Eric would be available and he could come and join us and we could talk about the latest in interior design this year. So I'm going to
I was
start this
thrilled,
with you
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I want to just say this one thing. Okay, so about 3.5 years ago, my husband and I had our interior redone. We had built the house back in '99. We live up on the beach, and it was just time for a refresh. So we had this really great refresh done, and it's pretty. I don't know. It's neutrals, a lot of neutrals.
Okay.
And I had someone in the house recently who said to me, "Wow, when are you guys going to have the house redone anytime soon?" 3.5 years ago. I refurnished my entire house 3.5 years ago, and they're already saying, maybe you need
Right,
to
that's so
redo
funny.
this.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? I've got
But do
neutrals.
you feel that way?
No, I don't. I feel really
So just
comfortable in it. I love it.
Listen to what you feel.
So this is the first tip right here, I can tell. You got to live in what's good for you.
100%.
Right. Well, you got to be surrounded by what makes you feel warm, what makes you feel like it's your sanctuary, what makes you feel safe, right?
Right. And I think I've built my entire career so far on designing individualistic interiors. So not following necessarily what the trends are and getting to learn your client, because at the end of the day, they live in the house.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I battle a client because they really feel strongly about something and I feel that it should be a different way, and I have to step back a little bit and think, this is important to them. This is how they're going to live. So we have to come to a happy medium. But there's always outside influences. People come in, neighbors come in, your friends came in and asked when you were going to refresh your house. So that's maybe your style, your vibe.
My
is not
ex-friends,
theirs.
by the way.
Yeah, right. They're not invited
Former
over
friends.
anymore.
They're never coming
So
back.
did you have to learn how to put I won't call it your ego, but your ego in check a little bit? Or do you constantly present new ideas to the client to maybe trigger stuff, and then does it work, or does it not work, or do they always go back to square A?
And that's a great question. And I think as I've gotten a little more sure of myself and been doing this longer and longer, I've gotten much more assertive, because at the end of the day, that's what someone hires you for.
Right.
They want your expertise, they want your opinion, and
True.
sometimes you have to really go head to head with them because you know better. And sometimes you lose, but I've learned to win more lately.
It's funny, right? Because at the end of the day, when it's almost the reveal, it's like you always run the risk of, if they're going to like it or not, because it's done. What's done is done, right? And I only say that because, and you're like the expert, but for me, I was doing these homes, and in the Hamptons, you do it turnkey. I would do it down to the knives and forks and the sheets on the bed, everything. The candles are lit. The smell's a certain way. The music is the French cafe music, whatever. But for what I would do for my very own self would be definitely different from what I am selling. And these are like high-end, a high-end client. But I would always be very careful with paint colors, and so I would do almost purely a decorator's white kind of gig. How do you approach that? Or
Well, so when are these houses that you're designing and
I'm doing it
and
all.
flipping?
I mean, I bring in everybody. I bring in every single subcontractor. I have.
So there's not necessarily a client while you're doing it.
No, but I'm always
'cause it's-
thinking about what
The
is that client
client,
going
right?
to
Exactly.
Who
So
is that
that's
gonna be?
A little bit of a different territory because you have to consider a lot of people coming to look at the house and what's
But
their
what do you
taste going
find?
to be.
You find that they are really into colors, or they like to play it safe?
I would say people tend to play it safe, but if you can push them toward that or explain to them and really educate them, I mean, color has gotten so big right now, and I think that's if we're talking about trends, you're going to see a lot of that coming up this year for sure.
Like in kitchens, right? The
Kitchens.
stone is getting bananas, which I love, but so other people like the plain sort of plain Jane
Subway white,
bland,
right?
Calcutta stone, and it's just kind of white with a couple of little veins in it. But the bold stuff is back, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And even in a big way of mixing patterns and colors and almost like a maximalist vibe And floors, walls, ceilings, that fifth wall is really something to take into consideration as well.
Like, and everything comes around. Like, I get terrified. I think, I don't know, maybe it was the year 2000, like Jerusalem gold was really in. Everybody's kitchen counter was this Jerusalem gold. Now if you go, it's like, oh my goodness, what do I do with this Jerusalem gold? I'm going to rip everything out, you know?
I'm dating myself, but that was back in like Ubatuba. Used to be the same kind of thing. It was very dark black and green marble, and everybody had it.
Yeah.
And now
the
you would
gigantic
want to see it again.
terracotta floor and
Exactly.
So
That's coming back again, though. Yeah.
So what do you do for in 2025 for people who, maybe do want to get their house a little more updated, but they don't want to go back in and redo everything? So what's some suggestions? What can somebody do?
You can start small. It can be as small as just bringing in different accessories, changing out pillows, throws. Maybe you want to pick one spot and just add a paint color to it.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to do that on a ceiling somewhere, adding wallpaper to a small area, like a powder room, and just sort of start small and see how you feel about that and where that takes you. And if you want to do more as time goes by and if your budget allows.
Sure. Absolutely. You've done more than just homes.
I have done more than homes. I do primarily residential, but I've done one small boutique hotel. I've done a couple restaurants. What's
that like?
Spaces.
That's a totally different gig,
it's a
right?
whole other animal.
Yeah.
Completely. There's so much more to consider. The codes are very different when you're doing a commercial project. Although now there are so many incredible materials that meet those codes, and so they've come a long way with that.
Totally, I feel that pain. We just redid Greta Lux in Wellesley. And,
yes.
I mean, this store now, I think it's like right out of Tribeca, out of New York City. And so with the codes, for, getting involved with Greta Lux, you're dealing with union, you're dealing with, people are gone, they're in at 6:30, they're gone by 2:30 in the afternoon. Like, wait, what? And,
sure.
But
it isn't scheduled, they're so fast. Like there's no time to think.
I love your advice about one thing that, you start off with something small, even if you do like a wall like this, and then this ends up hearkening to what you want the furniture to be in that room. I just did a movie theater in this house that we did, and I hid the utility room behind a wooden wall, so that an oak wall would sort, it disappears, right? You can't find the door. But then that wall asks for the lights to look like a certain way, which asks the floor to be a certain way.
Sure.
And then it just grows, and then you get all of this personality in it.
Sure.
See, I get too whipped up about this?
No.
It's a little weird, right?
It's exciting.
It's not weird.
Coffee.
That would be, though, the issue that my favorite husband would say to me when I said, oh, I want to do this wall. And he went, and then that's going to creep into, It is a creep. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah,
It's
we love
creep.
that. We love a good creep.
Of course you do. Of course you do. So, best advice. What do you, give us some.
Yeah,
give us some, or tell us about some of your favorites.
Really, I mean, best advice is, it sounds so plain, but just following your gut and really learning what your style is. So many people tend to turn toward magazines or what they see on TV, and they think they love it, and they think that's what they want, and they want to replicate and duplicate that in their space.
Yeah.
But maybe their architecture is different. Maybe the lighting in their house is different. Maybe it's not going to read in their space like it does in a magazine.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of talking and a lot of back and forth with clients. And I know there's a lot of DIYers out there, and I think that they should, again, start small and just experiment, and don't go crazy right off the bat. Something, because it may be something that you have to redo or undo. Maybe you're going to throw a color on the wall, and paint is one of the cheapest and easiest ways to make a change.
Sure.
And if you do something and it's a mistake and you don't love it,
paint over it.
It's easy to paint.
That is for certain. So, the most important part of design, what do you think it is?
I have to go back like old school and say really like scale and proportion.
Yeah.
Because people miss the mark on that so many times.
Right. Their couch is way too big for the room, or it's too small.
It
more
is.
importantly.
And sometimes, design is strange, because if you have a very small space in your house, it actually is counterintuitive. You should put fewer pieces, but larger pieces.
Yes.
As opposed to just little tiny pieces all around. It makes the room feel more open. Even if you have a small dark space, paint it a dark color, and it will actually make it feel bigger.
One of the things I've really learned too is lighting, and obviously lighting is just so important. It's important in my life, the way I live. I like light. I like that's
almost, it's everything. It's like
it really is.
The score to a movie, the music is everything. The lighting is.
I like
so
lighting
important.
big during the day, and I like it really small at night. But one of the things that I really learned redoing the house, because most of our house is glass, we have the same color paint in two different rooms, and that paint looks completely different in those two different
Right.
rooms. We may as well have,
Sure.
gotten a different paint. So lighting, how it reflects in your house is really an important part of making these decisions, right?
And I don't think it's just because we're from the business. I don't think I've ever put a light switch in that wasn't on a dimmer.
Never.
I mean,
That's how I am,
always
too.
light the staircase so that it's a night light as well, but it gives
Yes.
that. I'm always setting it up like it's going to be a date night
Right.
in my house.
Right.
I have a client who just got rid of all the recessed lights in the house where we were doing a renovation. They just said, we don't want any recessed lighting,
Yep.
which is a challenge, but
yes,
I get it.
It is.
Yeah.
That is. But that's okay with me. I'd rather it be dark and I'm going like this.
You need all different
than
levels
to
of
be like
lighting. You
this
need lighting
studio
coming
is
from
now.
below, and exactly, it's all about your
Yeah,
mood.
Absolutely. Well, one last thing, one last 2025 thing. Tell us what it is.
Oh my gosh,
You're on the spot.
I know you're
I know you're on the spot.
really putting me
Come on,
back.
Eric.
Have you ever fired a client?
Yeah.
I have.
Oh, great question.
I have fired 3 clients,
Wow.
and
And their names are.
I actually have them tattooed on my wrist right here. So yes, I have. And recently, I've learned to read the red flags a little bit more. So I had a project that I was excited about, but I met with the clients a couple of times, and something inside just said, "Don't do it.
Yeah.
You can just see it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Like
They're not your
almost nothing
people."
that you can do that will really make them happy.
Yeah.
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 That makes a big
That's a
difference.
shame
I had
because
to
they
write
could
it
have
down.
grown. They could have grown in their own space.
Yeah,
and they
makes a
could have
big difference. How do people get in touch with you?
I have a website.
Yeah.
It's ericroseffdesigns.com.
Wait, say it slowly.
Eric.
Yeah, with a C or a
Rose
K?
with a C.
Ah, very good.
Roseff. So it's rose like the flower.
Right.
With 2 F's.
2 F's.
Okay.
Designs.
With an S on the end.
With an S on the end.
Yeah.
.com.
You know how important that was, what we just did?
I
right
know.
there?
It is very important. Hey, I am so glad we finally met.
It was great to meet you. It's
It
great
was-
to meet you too,
And
Rick.
I
Great
love
to
your
meet
stuff.
you.
So can I call you separate and we'll
Yeah, absolutely. I would love
ideas and
that.
stuff?
I have so many questions I want to ask
tired
you.
of hearing my own thoughts. I want to hear other great, much better ideas than my own.
I see collaboration coming here.
know?
I don't know. Call me crazy. Eric, thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you so much.
All right. When we come back, we're gonna wrap things up. And we got a few more things we need to take care of here with Ricky. So be sure you stay with us. This is Kerrigan and Company. Winter's dry air can certainly take the glow out of your skin. I know it does mine. That's why I'm headed to see my friends at Sienna Aesthetic Spa in Beverly. They offer a hydrofacial that's non-invasive and delivers instant results for all skin types with no downtime. It combines cleansing, hydration, and nourishment for a radiant complexion. Their hydrofacial removes dead skin cells and extracts impurities while simultaneously delivering cleansing, hydrating, and moisturizing serum. If you're looking for immediate glow without an irritation, set up an appointment today. Go to siennaesthetics.com. This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa. Take years off your face with the very latest technologies at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly. Welcome back, everybody. It's that time when we wrap things up. Ricky Paull Goldin has been keeping me company today, and this has been so much fun. That was really fun with Eric, huh?
Yeah, I just
impressive.
want someone to come and design my house. Like just do I don't want to do it for myself. Just
I know.
that cool stuff.
I didn't say this when he was here, but I've had both experiences. I had a decorator come in one time, and I thought, I just can't deal with this, and I just want this decorator to take care of everything. So I'd say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and whatever. And I always felt like I was living in somebody else's house.
Oh, that's funny.
I regretted that.
Right. See that? Yeah.
So
You can't give up the power. You've got to
no.
really feel,
No. So, I mean, it seems like a really great idea that, oh gosh, I'd like to leave and just come back and it's all done and but really it's not.
And I've heard a lot of stories like that, and even some people that I know that are wonderful, but you can't, with their opinions over, that's why I asked, have you fired clients? Do you just not see eye to eye? Sometimes it's a very personal thing that you're doing. And you can't, I couldn't really do it for a bunch of clients. I just can't, I would never be able to do it that way. I did it I do it more as a creative outlet for myself. I see a little cottage on the whatever, and I see what it can be. People walk into an apartment or a condo and they go, well, I'm never going to buy it, not of mine. It might have a black refrigerator, and the husband might turn to the wife and say, I'd never buy a place with a black refrigerator. You just got to think about, I can see,
You get
see
beyond.
through the walls and see through the color.
And you realize most people cannot do that. They can't walk in and see.
It's so
You
true.
may not have
Yes,
known that,
yes.
but most people cannot
Yeah,
see.
right.
Yeah. I actually kind of think I'm somebody who can see, but I am limited.
Well, you're
you
super
know.
creative, so that's why, but having your own designer and decorator when you don't have any ideas of your own is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Because again, sometimes people are limited to
Yes.
their imagination,
Yeah.
and that's not so great. Hey, we do this thing, it's called College Hype Fast 5.
Uh-oh.
What we do, it's 5 rapid fire questions. You have to answer
Okay.
them within 30 seconds.
Okay.
College Hype, and making a difference one T-shirt at a time.
This is no prep at all. I was
collegehype.com
never
today.
even told about this.
Here we go. In 3, 2, and 1. Who's the actor you would most like to work with that you have not worked with already?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
You knew that right off the top. If you could only pick one, which would you do? Acting, producing, or directing? Only one.
Acting.
What's an ideal date for you and Greta?
An ideal date would be really great food, something very romantic, and no phones, no screens, no nothing. Broadway show maybe, and
Does it ever happen? More
it has
importantly.
happened. It's hard in this world today, but it has happened. Yes.
Most bizarre storyline in a soap opera that you've been in. You knew that
I've
was
been in?
coming. Yeah.
Oh
you knew.
my God. Okay, I was a doctor on All My Children, and I think I did surgery on a mountaintop, brain surgery with a knife and fork and a headlamp. And she lived though. Everything's fine. She's alive today. Played by Alicia Minshew, by the way.
There you go. Remind me the next time I'm not feeling well, I'm going to buzz you because
Yes.
clearly
I
you
know a lot of
exactly what
doctor
you're
stuff.
doing. And finally, how do you celebrate Valentine's Day? Is it dinner, jewelry, flowers, or is there something else?
We try to go away. We have 2 kids, so we try to go away without the kids, yet there's always the guilt that you don't have the kids. But if we can get away just for 48 hours, I'm so happy, and I love them to death. But I just like a little alone time with Greta. That's all I ask for.
Perfect. Very, very good. Listen, this has been a treat.
Oh, for me? Are you kidding?
This has been so much fun.
You keep it cold like David Letterman
look at you.
in here. People alive. Very clever, David. Very clever.
Yeah, that's my Dave over here that keeps it cool in here.
I do want to talk to you guys about this other thing. When we get
Okay, hold on. Let me just say goodbye. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, hold on. Okay. So, you'll come back.
Anytime.
You promise?
It would be a pleasure.
Okay, great. And we'll have you bring some more of your great friends. And thanks for bringing Jolie. She was really, she was
Thank
super
God for
terrific.
people like her, right?
Yeah, she was terrific. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode. Be sure you follow us on social. And if you're thinking about listening but you want to see it, you can check it out on YouTube. So be sure you do that as well. We'll be back for another episode next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Kerrigan and Company. To find out who will keep me company and be my co-host on the next episode, be sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Kerrigan and Company is recorded at the Big Night Studios at the TD Garden in Boston. You can view the podcast on YouTube and listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you tell a friend. The executive producer of Kerrigan and Company is David Thompson. Our engineer is Peter Hurley, and our social media managers are Grace Kerrigan, Colby Thompson, and Riley Thompson. See you next time.